When it comes down to how effective our teams are most effective in person. And the parents feel that right now.
I came up with this checklist for the clinic, and I thought that was challenging. Then we started thinking about home-based programming, where there is a ton more issues, more variables that we cannot control. What we tried to do was take what was effective in the clinic. How do you define that? As behavior analysts, we went by the data. A lot of this included visual aids, intensive training, and self-monitoring. That was the one huge component of this. And then it was a matter of attempting to update that checklist along with the home-based one. So some of the biggest changes were in the clinic, staff were able to arrive early, disinfect everything. They could complete their screening tool and collect temperatures, everything we had to do to ensure we were safe on our end. Whereas it seems to be the shift is going to be more responsibility on staff to gather these materials and conduct these screening tools prior to arriving, including disinfectants, masks, gloves. There was also the shift from the staff completing the screening tool to now it's probably going to be both the staff completing the screening tool as well as the families. I know the one idea I have for that is if we can have families complete this an hour, half an hour prior to the session, and then find a way to automatically kick that information to the BCBA and the staff. This way, if there is a risk of fever, any kind of contamination, staff are aware of that before they arrive, versus if they arrive at a client's house and then now we find out there's a fever, they've already potentially been exposed. The screening tool that we implemented looked at, have you been around someone who's potentially been exposed within the last 14 days? Have you been out of the country in the last 14 days? Have you washed your hands or used sanitizer prior to the session, as well as a list of the symptoms. And if you answered yes to any of the symptoms or possible exposure, the next screen prompted you to either call out or move your session remotely to telehealth if possible.
And it's almost like the perpetual completion of this checklist, the screening tool will keep people more in tune to what to look for as well.
What you're doing is awesome, Zellick and Linder, because that checklist serves as a discriminative stimulus for the parents to engage in all those infection control behaviors, knowing that they're going to have to fill this out as long as they're honest. It serves as a conditioned reinforcer to try to stay infection free and engage in all the mitigation behaviors. So that way the therapist can come to the home and serve their son or daughter. So it gives them opportunities to think all along the way, how am I behaving as a parent while I'm in the grocery store? How am I behaving? Did I put myself at risk? Because it also can impact the level of services, because many parents do not want telehealth. They want in-person.
When it comes down to how effective our teams are most effective in person. And the parents feel that right now.
We know approximately how much hand sanitizer, soap, disinfectants we go through a week. Trying to scale that into, who's going to supply? Is it going to be up to the families to supply the disinfectants for sessions? Is that up to the agencies? And even how much you would need becomes a whole other challenge that I know we're still trying to work through and figure out the logistics of.
But I'm glad you throw these things out. Just like Dr. Marin was saying, it's a work in progress. So
absolutely.
The best way to provide excellent services and consider COVID-19 mitigation practices is to execute and get better each day based on the feedback that the experts give us and the data. So those questions you're throwing out there, man, they're things that require us to answer them quickly. And yes. I think those questions are excellent, man.
So right now I'm here in the clinic with the learner every day, collecting my data, ensuring staff are doing everything that they have to do. But when we are in X number of homes, who's going to be responsible for that? So I know in our meeting, we were kicking around some ideas. One of the good ones was having the parent act as that supervisor, giving them that responsibility if that's what they're into, or what they're interested in, kind of gives them a feeling of some power. It ensures that there is more oversight in the process, and may even just function as reinforcement for both parties to make sure they're doing what they have to do.
That excites me. It doesn't take much, but that really excites me, because families such as myself as a dad, and I would know that, like Marlene, we would want to be part of the process. We would feel so much better if we were also completing our checklist for like inter-observer agreement of the independent variable or the treatment integrity. So what you're doing there is a big deal. Like you said, if they're into it. I like the way you put that. But we would be into it, because at our home, we want to make sure that we're aware, and it makes us feel better. And then the parent at some point can go to an intermittent schedule of checking, and if it's too labor intensive.
When it comes to training staff and families on this, not only training what are we doing, but the how and the why. You know, I mean, we've talked about this before, where people aren't wearing masks properly, or they're wearing gloves and then they touch 100 surfaces before they take the gloves off and wash their hands. So why are we following these steps? I know one of the ideas that also got kicked around was some type of reinforcement based on pre-selected criterion. One of the last ideas that we kind of kicked across was, whenever there is a BCBA on call via telehealth or in person, maybe just having them ensure that the checklist is being followed, and just providing additional assistance with that as well.
Hit the like button, please, and then hit the bell, because the bell will notify you when new videos come out.